You will not do anything about this, and shame on you, because our Jewish community need looking after, and as Mayor of London you are not doing that.
Let's move on to Assembly Member Hall.
Okay, thank you. Morning, Mr. Mayor. I'm discussing the protests. So on the holiest day in the Jewish calendar and on the day of the horrific terror attack in Manchester, pro-Palestinian protesters gathered along Whitehall and the Cenotaph to chant offensive slogans and clap to them, play loud music and wave offensive signs. Protesters gathered at Liverpool Street Station, screaming chants at passing commuters. Protesters could be heard chanting "from the river to the sea" and describing Israel as a terror state. So on the day of the Manchester terror attack, was that behaviour appropriate?
No, I don't think it was. I think it's more to distinguish between what's lawful and what's considerate, mindful and sensitive. And it's worth just spending time talking to Jewish people. You know, there is one state that has a Jewish majority, and many people have an affinity to that who are of the Jewish faith. And on the day when a place of worship, on the Day of Atonement, has been attacked by a terrorist, you can understand, I hope, why Jewish people are feeling frightened. And let's not go to what the law is. I think you use the word appropriate. That's a good word. I don't think it's appropriate because people are feeling scared and frightened more so than they have, you know, in the recent past.
Okay, so do you think that the behaviour of the protesters in Whitehall and at Liverpool Street is anti-Semitic?
Well, you know, you're asking a general question about individuals' behaviour. I think it's insensitive, and I think it's...
No, is it anti-Semitic?
No, I don't think marching's anti-Semitic.
So you don't think screaming "from the river to the sea" and calling it a terror state is anti-Semitic?
Okay. So the members and I extended a question from "is the march anti-Semitic" to now specific phrases of anti-Semitic.
Well, the phrase is constantly being used during these hate marches. This is why I'm asking the question. Do you think to scream "from the river to the sea," which they're doing during these hate marches, is appropriate? Do you think it is anti-Semitic?
Okay, I don't think it's anti-Semitic, and I think it's all about context. And we had the same conversation, by the way, Chair, a month ago when the member was arguing that the far right should be allowed to march, and we were having this conversation about Article 10 and freedom of expression. Now, I already said I think it's inappropriate and insensitive on the day of a terrorist attack to have these sorts of marches. Some slogans can be anti-Semitic, but it's all about context. And in certain contexts, yes, those slogans are anti-Semitic. In other contexts, they're not.
Well, we will differ on that view. All we ever hear is "from the river to the sea," and we all know what that means, and that is anti-Semitic. You released a statement the day after the protests, and at no point did you criticise the appalling behaviour we saw. You were unequivocal when you were talking about one particular protest last month, claiming that that was far right. Well, so why don't you describe these protests as clearly? Because they're not only plainly wrong, they are anti-Semitic.
Look, the difference, I would say, respectfully, between the member and myself is I'm consistent. So the member argues for the right or the far right to protest, but criticises pro-Palestinians.
They're not far right. They wave flags like this. That does not make me far right. That makes me very patriotic, actually. So you immediately come down on those, and yet we have had these anti-Semitic comments constantly from these hate marches, and you don't comment on that at all. Last month you said politicians have refused to condemn the rising tide of hatred in this country. So you should be happy to condemn the behaviour we saw at these pro-Palestinian protests.
Well, again, we're going to disagree here because I think Stephen Jackson Lennon is a racist. He's a violent racist, and when he organises a march, it's a far-right march.
Isn't it interesting? That is racist. To call people, to say that "from the river to the sea" isn't, of course, no, because perhaps that's coming from a side that should be allowed to say that. To say terror state, perhaps that's allowed as well. It's amazing, isn't it? And yet merely flying a flag, immediately it's far right. I mean, do you actually understand why the Jewish community feels unable to do, as you say, live, work and worship freely without fear of harassment, discrimination, intimidation or violence, when they see the duplicity of your remarks when discussing protests on different sides? Do you not understand why they are so concerned about this?
Actually, I've never mentioned flags. I know she's obsessed by flags. I've never mentioned flags. I'm quite clear in relation to what rights were allowed in terms of freedom of expression, freedom of speech, the right to protest, the cornerstone of our democracy. Even when you disagree with what people are protesting about, I will fight to the death the right to protest and the right to march and so forth. Even the right of Stephen Yaxley Lennon, a racist, to march. He's allowed to do so.
Mr. Mayor, look, you are the mayor of this wonderful city. Does it not worry you that there is one community that has to lock its children in schools for their safety? There is one community that can't come into London because of their listening to chants like "From the River to the Sea," where they're looking at Palestinian flags and hostility towards them. Do you not see that in London, to have one community that is so badly disadvantaged by what is going on with these anti-Semitic chants, that you, as mayor of this great city, should do something about that?
Chair, I've got to be clear in my remarks in relation to my concern about the fare, the increased fare Jewish Londoners and Jewish people across the globe are feeling after the events of last Thursday. I've gone out of my way since October the 7th, 2023, to reassure Jewish Londoners and Jewish people across the country and across the...
But they don't feel reassured. How can they feel reassured?
Member, but there's a number of interruptions now that you're making. I understand the point you try to get across. Mainly because he's not
listening, Chair. He's not listening and he's not understanding.
But you can't keep interrupting. You have to allow him to answer in the way that he does, and then you can come back again. No one will object to that.
I tell you what, I'll finish here because you will not do anything about this, and shame on you, because our Jewish community need looking after, and as Mayor of London, you are not doing that. And my time is up, Chairman. Thank you.
What we've just witnessed is not just a heated exchange in London's Assembly, it's a reflection of a growing divide within the city itself. On one side, concerns over rising anti-Semitism, fear, and the safety of Jewish Londoners. On the other, the right to protest, freedom of speech, and expression, principles deeply rooted in British democracy. Assemblymember Hall's frustration echoes the voices of many who feel that hate-filled chants and hostile demonstrations have gone unchecked for too long. Her words, "Shame on you," carry the anger of a community that believes its fears are being ignored. Mayor Sadiq Khan, meanwhile, stands firm on defending the right to protest even for those whose words many find deeply offensive. His stance highlights the difficult balance between protecting freedom and confronting hate. But beyond the political back and forth lies a painful truth: London's Jewish community is scared. Parents worry for their children's safety. Schools are locking their doors. And yet, leadership responses appear divided, hesitant, even cautious at a time when unity and clarity are needed most. So tonight, as London continues to face tension on its streets and fear in its communities, the question remains: should freedom of protest ever come at the cost of another community's safety and peace of mind? If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss our next political update.